Hey, what's up guys, my name is Emledge, and today I'm going to show you 3 ways how to push, catapult, and launch players in a Hammer. These 3 are brush-based entities, which are the trigger push, the trigger catapult, and the trigger impulse. I have a little test map over here to allow you to visualize and see the practical application of each one before we start making it in a Hammer. Let's start off with the trigger push. I have a little ramp over here that pushes us. So roughly 600 is the magnitude of the push, the speed, and the direction over there is 180, and this one is 90. That's the 2 parameters you really need to worry about, like at all. It's the speed and the direction. We have a little room right over here. This room has other uses for it, other than just a ramp. Many people like to use it as a ladder. So you can, jump, and the ladder pushes you upwards. Pretty cool. But the thing is with trigger push is that the trigger push will not push you upwards if you are not already in the air. So it just makes your screen jitter like this, which is annoying until you jump, and then it pushes you upwards. Alright, now let's focus on the ramps over here. These all have the same exact direction and speed and magnitude of power. The right one over here is a low angle. It just, does that. Over here is 45-degree angle, which is optimal. Over here, we have a very high angle, which is, again, not optimal. The middle one is the best one, but of course, all 3 of these will work very well if you jump at them and in the middle. So let's go over here. Very nice. Middle one. Like that, even nicer. And this one over here. Oops. Let's try that again. Does that. Alright, now finally, the application in a Valve map, or community-made maps for Valve, specifically the Invasion update. They have a little alien spaceship over here. And, you get pushed into the middle of the spaceship. So what I did over here is, you cover the entire room with trigger push brushes facing different directions, telling you to push him this way, push him this way. If he's in this area, you push him that way. So when I just hit the button, it'll automatically be brought to the middle here. And I did a very messy job with this just room in general. But this is just showing you how it works. See? That button over there toggles them on and off. This, and they bring me there again. Alright, now let's see how it's made and how it works in Hammer. Welcome to the Hammer editor. Nice. Alright, before I begin, I just want to let you know that the entire place is covered in a Funk respawn room brush. Just get that out of the way. It's so that I can respawn as a different class without, dying. Alright, so first off, the first trigger push over here we have is actually 500, not 600. My bad. It goes 180, that direction. You can mess with, either one of these. Do whatever you want. Make it faster, slower, whatever you'd like. This one over here is 90, that direction. And again, same speed over here. You can improve this over here by actually making this guy over here go like that. So it's more of a diagonal change. Actually, you can also make it, a little cut. And a little cut. So, just like that. So, it combines like that also. That might be better. Let's go to the room itself. Let's go to the ladder first. To ladder, it's 1500. We actually have larger amounts for ladders. And you notice that we had a bit of jittering in the bottom when we just stay there. So we don't exactly want that. So if we raise it just a bit, I think that's good. Then the person has to jump anyway to get to the ladder. Trigger push, you have to jump to make you fly upwards. So might as well make it a bit higher. This way we would have jitter because you're not in the trigger push when you're over here, and you just fly upwards when you jump. This one is just a mess. I just wanted to show you that you can do it, not exactly upright. Let's go to the ramps. Now, just how physics works, 45-degree angle is always going to be the most hang time. That's not necessarily what you want. A higher angle provides greater heights. So, oops, everything's funky. Sorry about that. Now, if you can, walk up the surface, kind of, or you get there with a demo charge, then you can be pushed off there also. They all have 1500. They all have the same exact direction. Nothing changed. And let's talk about the alien ship now. I have this little 2 brushes, funky detailed. If I didn't, then my map would take forever to compile. We don't want that. And where are the other brushes that I talked about in this map? That's a great question. I did not lie to you. We have tons of trigger things. That's what they are. They're tons of triggers. I just want to make things clear so I can disable it on and off. The middle one over here is called UFO push. They are all called UFO push. They all have the same speed of push. They have different directions though, depending on what part of the room they're in. They all push towards the same place. trying to get you in the middle of the room. Let's turn this back off. I have a little button over here that does not move. Damage activates, use activates, so it's on pressed instead of on damaged. And it targets all the push brushes named UFO push, and it toggles them on and off. Again, in order to fly upwards, I have to be jumping, which is why I jumped before I hit the button in the air. Or also just bring me to this little location and would not make me fly upwards. Okay, and that's basically all we have to say regarding trigger push. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and has many applications. Alright, next on the list we have the trigger catapult, which has actually a ton of parameters, most of which I do not know how to use. You can mess around with it yourself, but I'm going to show you the basic application of it here. It requires two things: the trigger catapult itself, this guy, and a target entity to shoot to. Over here we have an invisible entity in the middle of the air called an info target, which many people like to use. But of course you can actually use anything, which I'll be showing you shortly. The ramp over here, which shoots me to, again, standing over there, invisible info target in the air. But we can actually, you know, even choose perhaps other trigger catapults. This trigger catapult launches me towards that trigger catapult, which of course launches me towards the info target. But you don't even need another entity. If you think about it, you can launch the trigger catapult towards the same exact brush. Now, that wouldn't just leave you in the same spot, because each trigger has an origin, the little blue ball you'll see in Hammer, which I'll show you after we go to Hammer. So I have the origin moved slightly around this area. So this trigger catapult over here is actually blasting me towards itself, which is the origin, which, you know, is roughly around this area. Now the problem with trigger catapult in general is the lack of strafing. Since you're making it send you towards a different direction, it tries to confine you to that direction. Now, of course, you can change this stuff and a lot of other stuff with the parameters in the trigger catapult itself, but, you know, I'll leave it to you. And the example I'm showing you of lack of strafing is I'm going to try to run to the wall over there, and I'll see what happens. It blasts me upwards, exactly upwards, because I have an info target exactly upwards. And I'm running across it, and it wants me to go to the info target. Now, if it was just a normal thing in the world, due to physics, it would make me go diagonally upward, but it doesn't, because it's a trigger catapult. If you want to do that, then there is, of course, ways to modify trigger catapult itself, or we can use a trigger impulse, which is going to be the next thing we're talking about. But for now, let's go to Hammer. And we're back in Hammer. Alright, let's look at the trigger catapult over here. Now, it's got a lot of stuff over here, a couple of parameters. I didn't mess with anything. I left most of the stuff on the exact same default settings it was on. Player speed, physics, object speed. You can change the stuff and mess around with it again. Always make sure clients is checked on anything you have, especially the trigger push. I forgot to mention this last time, but I think their clients is checked off by default. Make sure it's always checked. Alright, so this is the info target we're launching to, target 0. Over here we have the launch target, which is target 0. This is the one you have to pay attention to the most. So it launches me towards that direction to this launch target. This over here has the same deal. Everything's on default. Target 1 is right over here. It's the launch target. And actually went to the liberty of naming this to Catapult 1, since this catapult over here actually has its destination set to Catapult 1. So this launches me to here. This launches me to here. Now, I see the little blue ball right over there. That's the origin. And that's what I moved in this one over here, which I named Catapult 2, because of course I have to give it a name. And the launch target is Catapult 2. The origin, I moved over here. I can move that in the header like this. I can move it around like that. Let's keep it over there. So it's named Catapult 2, and I launched towards Catapult 2. You can do this with many other things as well. People don't usually know this. Why would you do this? It's a bit more annoying because you can't see the blue ball. Maybe you want to make maps more annoying for people who open and look at your maps, or maybe you want to save on entities. That's an option. Now this one, oops, sorry, goes upwards. The direction is I don't set direction actually. I didn't bother with that. I set the info target way up high, so it tries to confine you to go there until you get to here. Then you get free strafing to move around. And it's named Target 2. Of course, launch target is Target 2. And nothing too complicated, but of course, feel free to mess around with a lot of the other parameters, see what you like, see what you don't like, see what works, see what doesn't, and let me know what things do, because I don't really know myself. Alright, now let's move on to Trigger Impulse. And now we're back in game for the third and final and most complicated one, the Trigger Impulse. A more popular example of that would be the hammer in the Carnival of Carnage map, where it smashes down on a radius, and the players get, thrown upwards. That uses a trigger impulse. The thing about the trigger impulse is that it will not, move you unless you're really in the air, over here. So, I'm not really being moved over here unless I am in the air. And then I actually get thrown very far, very fast. It's because I have a high number set to it. Now, I don't mean to deceive you, but I have those little things with a special quality over there, because a normal trigger impulse will not, and I mean will not, do anything at all unless another entity sends a apply impulse output to it. It's not disabled, not at all. It's enabled, it's just there, and it's doing nothing. Not until I hit this button, which applies an impulse to this entity. Now, you actually don't have to have another entity controlling it. Since this thing acts as a trigger, it can, send out on start touch outputs, meaning you can really do on start touch !self, which applies to the entity that is, doing it, and apply impulse. So look at this. It acts as the thing that activates it, and it applies it to itself. It's pretty cool. Now the radius thing, which if you want to know how that works, that was with the hammer, because it's on a little bit of radius here. So I have a trigger matching the exact, size of these little brushes over there. And they actually do stack. These are all set to 300 is the power of each one. And the button, of course, has to apply the impulse. Over here, jump a bit. I go on this one over here, which has 300 and 300. 2 layers of 300. And I go a bit higher. And the middle one, which has 3 layers of 300, makes me go a lot higher. It's nice they stack, makes a nice little radius over there. And yeah, now let's see that in Hammer. Welcome to Hammer once again. Let's go over here. Let's check out what I had over here going on. It was set to 2000. I had to make it a bit high to actually reach over here, and for that to reach over there. And what I had was the same thing over here, where I had it said it's on start touch !self, which is this, it's itself, and apply impulse. It has to apply impulse to the own brush. Set over here, it applies an impulse to its own brush. So once you touch it, it shoots you. By default, it will not do anything. It'll just be there. But I have to have that little output, which, applies an impulse. This one, which is the more basic one, more basic example that ends up being used, as, 600 impulse force. Direction is upwards. And button over here, pressed impulse 1. Impule 1, really? Did I name it Impule 1? I did, I named it Impule. I'm an idiot. Impule 1, apply impulse. So it just applies an impulse once you hit the button. Simple. Again, over there was the same thing as these things as well. 600 upwards, and on start touch self, apply impulse. Now, why would you use these over a trigger catapult? Well, that's because over here, they don't launch you towards a certain direction exactly. Well, they launch you upwards towards a direction, not towards a certain target. Meaning it'll just launch you upwards wherever you are within the entire brush. Doesn't matter where you are, like the hammer. Just want to hit you upwards. I don't need to be hit towards a certain direction, towards a certain exact entity, just upwards. Now let's look at these ones that are stacking. I made them some higher than others just so I can easily click on them. And this one over here, 300 set the upwards, 300 set the upwards, 300 set the upwards, and named all of them radius impulse. And I have the button that once you press it, they're all, applied an impulse to. So they stack. So if they didn't stack, this one would just do 300, but no, it's 300 with 300 with 300, so it makes you go flying upwards, which is pretty cool. And I think that's I think that's all I have for you. Oh no, I'm worthless now, aren't I? That sucks. See you next time, I guess.